Okay, let's call to order the District Clearwater Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, July 9th at 1 p.m. Is there any late items anyone would like to introduce? Okay, there's an agenda. Any additions to the agenda or changes? If not, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All right, all those in favor? And that passed. Next, any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none, no delegations, we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes. There are some minutes from the May 7th meeting. Would anyone like to move those?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Frizzle. All those in favor? All right. And then no committee meeting adoption, no unfinished business, and we'll move on to number 9, new business, staff reports, public art policy. Is there staff that'd like to speak to this?
I'm not sure what else to say about it, but if anyone has any questions, I know that we will revise the one just typo in the appendix. But other than that, I'm open to any questions from council or mayor.
All right, any questions, comments? From my perspective, I really liked it. I think you hit the mark really well here. I like it's sort of general enough to allow a broad interpretation of what art is, and I really like that. But that idea of hopefully we can set up that community advisory group, and in the meantime, it's council. I really like that. I think that's a good strategy. Any other thoughts or anyone want to comment? Councilor Frizzle.
I also like that, I'm not even sure how to say it properly, assessing.
Session, yeah.
I like that idea that we have a policy on how to change it or take it away or update it or whatever. I'm wondering if that shouldn't be if the knowledge of that shouldn't be part of the when there's an acquisition of art, if they shouldn't be made aware of how that's going to move forward if at a certain point in the future.
Right.
And just
Add that in.
when we're considering that kind of advisory group, I think a community group is a good idea, but another thing we should definitely consider is SIMP representation on that.
Yes,
It would be really
Yeah,
great to have somebody
that would
from
be-
SIMP kind of sit on that. Maybe one of their counselors or something could come and sit on that advisory committee, because I think that whole promoting the cultural preservation of history and cultures, that would be a great lens
Yeah.
for that.
I like that.
All right. There is a recommendation that we recommend to council to adopt the public art policy as presented. Okay, do we have a
Second
seconder?
that.
Seconded by Councillor McKenzie. All those in favor?
That was quick.
All right. Awesome, that's been a long time coming, so
Yeah, I'm
great.
really happy to see that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and now we're on to 9.2, Introduction to Questica Open Book. I'll pass it back to staff on that.
Good afternoon, Chair Herring and Council. Today, we would like to present Open Book and Questica. What we'll have a short presentation and a demonstration. Today on the line, we have Andrea Tobin. She's our senior accountant. She's been working with us to implement Questica and Open Book. So I'll go through a few slides and then Andrea will take over after that. We'll look at the benefits of Questica, Open Book, look at the question period. Staff is looking to get approval from council or from the committee of the whole to council to launch the Open Book budget visualization tool is what we call it. As recommended in this report. some of the benefits for Questica and for Open Book is it modernizes our financial processes and improves efficiency and accuracy and accountability. This is part of our council strategy. We would like to improve our efficiencies, and this is one method to do that. It's a web-based program, so it can be accessed anytime, anywhere. It's One Truth as well, so saying that the staff can access it anytime, anywhere. The reports are always available for staff, as well as reports are available for the public on the Open Book side of things. We are able to, from a staff perspective, able to save, I would say, supporting documentation. Could be contracts, could be maps, could be all sorts of things that provide backup to the number that you have in your budget. It's a key governance principle that we hold dear is transparency, and launching Open Book will provide another transparency tool for our community and increase visibility and management of tracking capital projects. So Questica is coming close to being implemented, very close.
Awesome.
So what is Questica? What is Open Book? So this is the module of Questica that looks facing the community. It's a method of presenting the budget data in an easy to understand and searchable manner. It's a data analytics module. It is an interactive approach to the data as well. The information we are sharing or proposing to share in Open Book is project information, so the capital projects and the special projects. We're going to share the financial plan, so the 2024 to 2028 financial plan. And we're also able to share historical information, so budget versus actual historical information as well. And that goes back to 2021, I believe, 21, 22, and 23. So, and it's in graphical representation. It can also be in a table as well. So there's different ways we could show that information. If there is a project that we have on the, for example, we have a 2024 project list. Some of those projects may have been canceled. We can choose to not show that project. So there is some flexibility in the module itself. So Andrea, she's going to take us through a demonstration of the Open Book.
Yes, we can.
We'll see. First, they will be able to see the list of capital projects. And like Linda mentioned, we could hide or we could filter those projects that have been canceled and be more updated data as possible for the public. Then they could see the list of special projects, followed by the list of the financial plan, split into the operating revenues and operating expenses. Then the last two boxes that you see down there, thank you for pointing, Linda, is the actual versus budget and revenue, and actual versus budget and the actuals as well. So we're going to share with you some of the most relevant data, and we will provide the link to Open Book for council and staff to review in more detail. Next. So if the public or while the user decides to open the capital project list, this is what they will see first, is a map displaying all the projects and their location if it has been updated. They can click either on the map to open the project, or on the left side, you can see the list of all the projects by name. Once they click on the project that they would like to see, so we're going to show you an example of that, what the public will see once the project opens up.
Oh. I can see it on mine.
Yeah, is that.
Okay, so how do I do that?
You can go to the
Just having a
next one.
technical
1 minute, we're
Yeah.
just,
technical difficulty at our end. Some things aren't
Oh,
lining
that's
up.
okay. Thank you for updating me. Yeah, I don't see everyone. Yeah.
this one. And just change it. Yes. Okay, can you see that, Andrea?
Yep, I can see. Thank you.
Okay.
So we can click in any of the projects that you would like. Maybe the TMX one, that is that one. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
nice
this is
one.
the accessibility. Yeah.
The TMX one does good. You can click on that project. And you can see some details. One is the map, again at the top, the project, a brief project description on the right side. The project number, which is internal, but that's how it comes, open book. Project type, the status of the project. So we're going to just try to show active projects. The expenditures, the projected expenditures, and the funding source for the project.
We can, if I may just jump in there, we can also show a picture. We don't have them all loaded yet, but this is the roof and TSP, so we would have a picture, a
The
map, the expenses, and the funding, and the description.
So if you go back now, we could maybe show the,
Presentation.
yep, if you want to, yep, the financial plan. Mhm.
Okay.
That's a lot of pictures. Coming 3 times.
Oh, right there.
Okay.
It's not really.
Maybe if you want to stay on the live, Linda, if you want to stay on the live side,
I
that's
think
fine.
we should, yeah. That
Yeah,
might
we
just
could
be
stay on the
easier.
live one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can stay on the
we
live side. It's fine. Yeah.
It seems to be,
I have one question while we're trying to figure out tech stuff.
oh.
Yes,
When you're
please.
showing the projects and you say we can filter, would the public see? So say there's 21 projects but there's actually 26. Would it show 26 or 21?
21.
Okay.
Okay, Andrea, you're gonna have to walk me through now.
Yeah, that's okay. Thanks, Linda. For instance, with the special projects, right now we have a bit more, but we're still working on updating some pictures or descriptions. So we're not showing them all. We haven't been showing all the special projects that we have, only the ones that are kind of ready and complete to show to the public. So hopefully by when we go live, we have more special projects all updated. Yeah. So Linda, if you go back to that main page, yeah, you can open the financial plan revenues, maybe. So this is an example of the forecast revenues for the next 5 years. If you see on the left side, you see everything is color coded from 24 to 28, and it's a split into revenues and expenses. So this is just the revenue section. And the user can drill down, they can click on those bars and go from the by law to the department. At the top, they can also click for amount to percentage. If you go at the top, Linda,
Oh, right
there, yeah. It's a kind of a different way to present the information. And if you hover over the pie chart, it shows you a little bit of like what it represents and the percentage of it. in a summary. If you click on the summary, then it's just a table with all the summary, nothing very exciting there. A lot of data. But, and the percent in the amount, Linda, yeah.
Right here.
If you go back to the amount
Okay.
at the top, yes, thank you. You can sort by either on the left side.
Oh, yeah.
You can sort by high to low or by name, so by alphabetical order. So it's all interactive. That's what we mean by interactive. The user can just play around with the information if they would like to see it. So that's how the financial plan looks like. If you go back to that one, then you scroll down, we can show the actuals versus budget, maybe. Oh, you want to, yeah.
We'll do expenses.
Yeah. So this is, we have loaded 3 years of historical data. Right now we have 23, 22, and 21, and the user can select that as well. The blue is the budget. The red represents the actual amounts. And again, the user can sort by kind of high to low or by alphabetical order from A to Z. And they can switch in percentage. They can switch how the charts are presented. They can see a pie chart. And also the staff can download this as well, like everyone who has access to open, but this will be public information. So everyone can see it. It's really nice and interactive. The history one is really nice too, Linda. There's more graphs. This is by department. Shows you all the information attached to the graph. From 21 to 23. And the public can provide feedback as well. So they can click on that button at the top, Linda, right corner, it says feedback. They can type, send us a feedback, and it will go to the finance email for response. And that's it for me, I think, Linda. Any questions? Oh,
Mayor Blackwell.
Thank you for everybody for the work on this. This is, I think, kind of a game changer for even council to access and understand what's going on instead of having to continuously ask questions about the state of things. We can just go look and give that feedback to the public if that's what they're asking of us. But also
Direct them to
figuring out where we're at on the fly. This is going to be a really cool tool. Yeah. Thank you.
Further comments, questions?
I have one question. How quick is, so you input the data, it's immediate in the system, or I guess this is only as good as the information that's input kind of thing?
It's always as good as the information that is
Right.
received. However,
Not
we are from a public point of view.
Yes.
There's two views. From a public point of view, the information that we shared is audited.
Oh, gotcha.
So 23 is historical, right? 23, 22, 21. However, the budget is what we're working with right now. From a financial management point of view, staff is integrating with actuals on a daily basis.
Right.
So we see the 2024 actuals integrated from Maze as our financial system into Questica, and we see that daily.
Okay.
And similar with the projects and things like that. So we have a lot more information on the backside to manage the business or manage the organization.
And that's doable? It's
Yes.
manageable?
It's we've integrated, it worked, Andrea and Questica have worked together, and the integration was a lot smoother than I've seen it go
Perfect.
before, so it's very good.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just from a timeline perspective, want to share, we're going to go for a soft launch in July. so that it's council, a few members of staff or all of staff, have a look, tell us what you think. Have any recommendations, please let us know. We have a few little bugs that we have to work with Questica, but the data is generally really good. And given that we have a good experience in the soft launch, we're thinking of going with a go live in August, and that'll go live, and we'll promote it a bit. We'll advertise on the district's website, maybe a little social media, and I'm toying with the idea of possibly a little video or something so people can understand how it works and what they can find and what, you know, what to look for. Other than that, we're looking for a recommendation from council to support the launch of Open Book.
Further comments, questions from council?
I have,
Councilor McKenzie?
Yeah, I just want to thank staff for their work on this after hearing about it for a while and finally getting to see it come to fruition, because Mayor Blackwell says it's definitely a game changer and help us navigate and let the public know with some more thorough answers and more, you know, I look forward to navigating it myself, and just thank you for bringing this to us and look forward to it.
Okay. Anyone else?
no, that's okay.
All right. So in that case, there is a recommendation.
Move it.
Second it. All those in favor? Perfect. All right. And then that's it for our agenda. So we'll move on to the adjournment. We recommend that the meeting be adjourned. Who wants to move that?
Brown.
Councilor Bratton.
Second.
Done and done. Yeah, I thought usually you only.
My mic working? Yes, now my mic is working. There we go. I call to order this District of Clearwater regular council meeting for Tuesday, July 9th at 2 p.m. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are fortunate to be gathering together on the unceded territory of the Sim people who have been caretakers of this land since time immemorial. There is one late item. It will go as 7.0, which will be a presentation to our fire chief, Mike Smith. So with that, are there any other late items that anybody would like to add to the agenda? Seeing none, can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda as amended? Thank you. All those in favor? Moved by Councillor Frizzle, second by Councillor Bratton. All those in favor? Any declarations of known conflict of interest or pecuniary interest on this? Councillor Bratton.
I have one for the planning, the subdivision one.
Yeah, get closer to the mic. So it's
Sorry.
you have one for the subdivision one?
Yeah.
And the reason is
Two close friends.
too close friends to
Yeah.
that decision? Thank you. Are there any others? If not, thank you. So moving on to delegations. First up, and photo time, is Mike Smith, who is getting his 20-year award. So let's go in for the flags, but anyways, we've got this lovely service medal from Mike here, as well as a plaque, and we thank him for everything that he does for us.
It's the federal one, so it's that.
Smile, take lots of them. Yeah, is that blink? There we go. Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, thank you for that. Moving on to the presentation on QA by Strategies North on the North Thompson Sports Plex second floor expansion. Whenever you are ready online, go ahead with the presentation. I look forward to this. A fantastic package, by the way. Really impressed with what we're seeing in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are you able to hear us okay?
You're a little low, and then I'll get you to introduce yourselves as well when we check mics again. So let's try again, see if your volume's up.
Testing, testing.
A little bit better.
Hello.
Okay, go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell us why you're here today.
Great. Well, thank you very much. So my name is Nick Hayden, and I am joined by my colleague here, JJ Fellers. So we are both with Strategies North Advisory. And so Strategies North Advisory, we were engaged by the District of Clearwater to do a feasibility study for the North Thompson Sportsplex expansion. So just a little bit about us. So I've been with Strategies North for about 4.5 years now. I'm the economic advisor there. Work a lot on feasibility and community development planning for our clients. And JJ, if you'd like to give a brief introduction as well.
Absolutely, Nick. Hello, everybody. JJ Fellers. I'm VP of Operations with Strategies North, and mostly been involved with this project on a higher level. Nick has definitely, by far, been the push and the lead on the wonderful document you all see. I've been with Strategies North well over 5 years, and been working with the founder and the owner for probably just about getting on 20 years now.
So we've put together a brief slide deck here, about 15 slides. I'll share my screen and just let me know if you're able to see this.
Yeah, we can see that. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So what we have been doing is we were under the understanding for this project, there's an opportunity for the District of Clearwater to expand the North Thompson Sportsplex with some new amenities and as well some additional options for accessibility. So the district, from what we've understood so far, had gotten some preliminary drawings completed from West Edge Engineering. And so in that proposed drawings, that included approximately 6,700 square feet of new space on the second floor and about 700 square feet of space on the first floor. So a total new second floor size of about 9,200 square feet. With that proposed expansion, it was thought that it would be likely to increase the amount of use the Sportsplex would receive, and the proposed expansion included 4 multi-purpose studios, a large banquet hall or ballroom suitable for up to 200 people, an inclusive washroom space with separate locking stalls, and an inclusive changing room space. As well, a playroom with visibility from the studios, an elevator for improved accessibility in addition to the existing handicap lift, and as well an additional office/administrative room and additional storage space. So I'll give a brief presentation just over some of the things that we found during the feasibility study. And then after, if there are any questions on the study or the findings or the project, then we are happy to answer those as well. One of the biggest things that we undertook as part of this feasibility is community engagement. Obviously, we understand it's very important for the District of Clearwater to proceed on projects that have community support. And so that was one of the kind of metrics of feasibility that we were looking at is, does this have buy-in from the community? And are there any aspects of it that may need to be rethought or additional engagement may need to be done? So we had conducted in-person events as well as an online survey. And so we had about 100 community members in total attend the in-person engagements. And we had a total of 513 responses to the online survey, with a grand total of just over 1,400 people had looked at the survey or had partially began it. And so, as I mentioned, that engagement definitely required to guide the research and the recommendations of the feasibility study, understand the community buy-in, and then also get a sense for what the community would like to see in an expansion of the Sportsplex. What we had seen broadly is that the community was overall in support of the potential changes and would generally welcome the increased amenities and spaces within the Sportsplex. The largest themes were that most of the community members that answered the survey indicated they would use the Sportsplex more often than they currently do now after the expansion. And most of the community members, they did seem to be currently satisfied with the North Thompson Sportsplex and what it offers. There was a very common concern among the respondents as to the cost of the project, and in particular, what it might cost as taxpayers and any impact to taxes. So the chart you see here is current usage versus expected usage post-expansion. And so of people who answered, how often do you currently use the Sportsplex? Never, rarely, few times a year, once a month. a few times a month or more than once a week, we asked those people, if the proposed expansion were to move forward, would you use the Sportsplex more often, the same as now, or less than now? And as you can see, it is very quite broadly, most of the people would in fact use it more often than now, or at the very least, same as now. But with the biggest changes for those people who might only go, once every few months or just once in a while. We had asked in particular about the multi-purpose studio space. So asking, how would you feel if multi-purpose use studio spaces / multi-purpose rooms were added to the second floor of the Sportsplex? It was a quite broadly positive response. 59% people responded positively, 26% of people responded neutrally, and only 15% of people had responded negatively. Most of the residents that we had engaged with are on board with the addition of multi-purpose studios and indicated that they're eager to see more space like that in Clearwater. There was a minority of community members who did mention redundancy of the space and competition within the community from more multi-purpose space. So talking about things such as the Dutch Lake Community Hall and some of the other facilities that had already existed. When asked about the banquet hall, similar question, how would you feel if a ballroom / banquet hall for up to 200 people was added to the second floor of the Sportsplex? Still broadly positive, 45% there, 30% neutral, and 1/4 of people responded negatively there. Key takeaways from that question was that the community seems to lack a venue that can accommodate that number of people at one time, other than potentially the existing dry rink at the North Thompson Sportsplex. Overall, it was positive. However, there was additionally, similar to the multi-purpose room, some concern over competition with existing community venues. Other ones including here was the ski hall and things like the Elks Lodge. We had, coming from the questions like that, looked at some of the local considerations, right? And so what could be venues that the expanded North Thompson Sportsplex might impact? Elks Lodge, Royal Canadian Legion Branch, the Dutch Lake Community Center, Clearwater Ski Lodge, and the Wellness Studio, the current gym in Clearwater. What we have figured from our engagement and from some of the things that we're looking at in terms of how the expanded Sportsplex could go, we do feel that it is unlikely to cause financial distress to the other operations and can be operated being a unique venue, right? And the North Thompson Sportsplex, once expanded, could have a good potential to position the community for future development, provide spaces for more services, for more events, things like that. However, there is a good reason to keep these other venues that might be impacted in mind when designing programming for new spaces. Our understanding is that while the expansion project could be very good for providing a space for a lot of uses, it would be a detriment to the community if that was at a cost of some of the existing spaces, private operations operating. One of the things that we had looked at talking about the expansion is staff capacity. And so in our conversations at the beginning of this project, the staff and staffing capacity is definitely a big consideration, especially when you're looking at what might the operating costs of the project be, right? And so what we have come up with is we understand the district and North Thompson Sportsplex currently have a dedicated and a skilled staff, both in the general management of Clearwater overall and of the Sportsplex and Sportsplex activities specifically, right? But with a new expansion, there's a couple things that will happen. One, there is new space, and that new space has to be used with something, right? And that additional uses might require more staff. And number two, with a expanded sportsplex, it is much more likely that to get the most out of the space should be operated year long versus the current 7 months of the year that we understand the sportsplex operates, right? So operating now year long and operating a bigger space will require some staff planning, right? And that might either require new hiring or longer hours or more hours for existing staff. With the ice rink in the North Thompson Sportsplex, so we have been told that it is an ammonia refrigeration system there. And so with that system, there definitely needs to be refrigeration staff there working on it while it's definitely in operation. But even if it's not in operation during the dry months, that staff should still be available for regular maintenance, inspections, and repairs on it to avoid any type of malfunctions or potentially safety issues with that equipment. And so with that aspect, there is a consideration that refrigeration staff and potentially other necessary skilled labor may be difficult to find locally. With the addition of multi-purpose space, this can be operated as rental space, right? For hosting classes, events, programs, things like that. That's going to require instructors. But just having that space available is also likely to attract new instructors, right? And it's not necessary that the district hire those instructors, but rather instructors could approach the district to rent the space themselves. Next, we looked at the capital and operating requirements. So what is this project going to cost? That was one of the biggest questions amongst the community engagement and one of the metrics that we have gauged the feasibility for the project. And so from our estimates, when looking at things including the hard construction costs, which is the actual construction of the new facilities, soft costs, which includes any planning, permitting, design, engineering that needs to be continually or needs to still be done, rather. And as well, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment for the new expansion space. We estimate this could be a potential cost of up to $9.5 million, likely falling within a range of 5.6 million to that 9.5 million. As part of this feasibility study, we engaged with Hanscom Limited. And so they are construction cost estimators and quantity surveyors to also create a Class D estimate for this project. And they gave a similar result at 9.2 million without furnishings for a Class D estimate, which is used for preliminary planning. When looking at the operating costs, the potential operating costs here, we're looking at two things. One, what is the expenses and what are potential revenues? And so a couple things are impacting the operations here and the operating costs in particular. One is a potential 70% increase in operating season, right? Going from 7 months to 12 months. And then an 16% increase in the total floor plan by adding this new space. So those two factors combined, this could see potential increase to many of the operating costs of approximately 100% when considering both of those factors. Now, some operating expenses may increase less than that. Some may increase more than that. However, it is a good baseline to try to estimate the potential cost of this. And so what we figure based on preliminary calculations is that the total operating cost for the North Thompson Sportsplex could increase from a total pre-expansion amount of approximately $500,000 to $920,000. We have estimated the new rooms could generate $124,000 per year from basic revenue estimations. And so that is an amount incremental, so additional to current operations, that would help offset the incremental increase of $415,000 to operating costs, giving about an annual deficit of $290,000 per year. We have figured the best way to present this, to give an idea of the cost of the community, is to look at both the capital and the operating costs. So overall, with the cost for capital, $9.5 million, and the operating deficit here of about $290,000, this could equate to a cost per household of $254 annually just for the operation. And if you are assuming that the entire capital cost is financed, so it's taken on as debt by the District of Clearwater, with a 5% interest rate on that for 25 years, that would be an additional $589 per household per year for the capital cost. So a total potential annual cost per household of $843.57 per year. This is based on number of households provided from the latest census at 1,145. And it is important to recognize, right, these amounts are preliminary estimates and they may differ in actuality. They are considered relatively conservative estimates. However, they may be less, they may be more in practice. There are also some indirect economic benefits to include in the decision for the future of the project, right? And so this includes things like a potential boon to the economy from a large-scale construction project if there are any local labor or local materials or equipment that can be used. Increased spaces for private businesses, such as any classes, to operate from. The ability for the first floor of the Sportsplex that isn't being expanded to operate year-round and have things like a ball hockey league, and as well the potential attraction of new visitors to the area, right? So improving local community facilities can enhance quality of life for people, make the area more attractive for residents or for new business or investment, and could increase property values even if it's successful. However, quantifying those indirect benefits was outside the scope of this study. When looking at the cost of the project, so one of the things that we at Strategies North do is we help communities access funding opportunities to help get these projects off the ground and progress and completed, right? And so in the assessing the feasibility of this project, we also looked at what is the opportunity to access funding opportunities to support the project going forward. And so there is a couple stages to this. Is one is planning funding, right? And so this is any activities, including future cost estimates, additional community engagements, engineering, architectural work, design, anything else that has to do with planning. And so what we have found is that this funding is straightforward to apply to, and in our experience. And for something like this, it is currently available. So there are current opportunities that the District of Clearwater could access to progress the planning of this project with minimal investment from the district. When looking at the next stage, which is the capital funding, so the actual getting the building up and constructing it, there is some funding for capital dollars. However, many of them are partial loans, and most of them will not cover the expansion in its entirety, right? And so some larger funds, such as the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Fund and the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Fund, those are currently closed, but are reported to be reopening for future intakes in the short to medium term future. What we find when applying for these types of funding that is in the millions of dollars to get the construction of a building is it often requires a specific approach, right? And so something like the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings would require additional planning, for instance, into, let's say, making part of the building more energy efficient, or reduction in greenhouse gases, something like that. And so those considerations depend on what funding opportunity the district may be going for if the project proceeds. When looking at other funding opportunities, there is the operational funding. So this is funding that might be able to support that operating deficit if it is there as the project continues and as it's being operated year to year to year. Currently, there are few opportunities for funding for those operating dollars. What we have found, though, is that what is available is for kind of bigger signal events, fitness programs, startups, and similar activities involving a sports or a tourism approach. So there is a strategy there that can be accessed to help fund at least some of the costs, and as well bring things like events or programs into the community. Lastly, looking at loans, as you are likely aware, there are some available infrastructure loans from the province that have the potential to cover the building costs. But with any loan, there are repayment terms that must be considered. So finding and recommendations for the feasibility study overall. So this is just a high-level overview of the study itself. Recommend it if you haven't to look at the study in more detail for some of these areas, and a few that weren't able to be touched on here. But what we have found is we do feel that the expansion project is feasible. However, there are large financial barriers to it, right? There is a high sensitivity from the residents of Clearwater for the cost of the project. And these financial barriers can be best mitigated by securing some kind of grant funding throughout the project to help cover the costs of it as it progresses. So we have found from the engagement that there is demonstrated demand, but with a fairly high cost. What we recommend is, as far as next steps, is that the district undertake internal decision making and continue with public communication. There have been, as we mentioned, over 1,400 people have viewed the survey, 500 people responded, 100 for the in-person engagement. the project's quite well known by our understanding amongst the community now. And so communication should be continued as to where the project's at and where it's going to be going. However, this should be done in particular to evaluate this expansion project versus some of the other projects that the district may want to undertake, that the community may have asked for in the past, things like that, to whether or not the district would like to proceed. And so if proceeding with the project is desired, we would recommend a focus on aggressively pursuing and securing funding to support the project's development. As mentioned, planning dollars can be more broadly available, and so that can move forward immediately, as well as starting to lay the groundwork for some of those larger capital dollars so that the project could proceed with a minimal impact to the taxpayer if that funding is successful. But that is the broad findings and recommendations and overview of the feasibility study as a whole. So we would love to open it up if there are any questions or anything from all of you.
The councillor's frantically writing down notes, so who wants to go first? Anybody? Councillor Herring.
Yeah, mine, great presentation. Thank you very much. You did a lot of detailed work there. Definitely a lot to chew over. My comments aren't specifically questions for you guys, but more thoughts I had listening to the presentation. Like from what I heard, there was about 172 people who used the Sportsplex more than a few times a year, if I captured that correctly. And there was about 613 people who responded to the survey. So that works out to 28% of the people who responded to this regularly use that facility. It's already costing us $505,000 a year, which puts the current cost at over $250 a taxpayer per year just to run a service that 25% of the community is using, and maybe a small percentage of, you know, businesses benefit from tournaments or whatever it is outside of that. So we're already spending a huge amount of money on a small amount of the community, and this idea of opening it up to more at double the cost, I don't see the benefit here. I think we had, and maybe one of the other councillors that was part of it can fill me in, we had the pool referendum years ago, just before I moved here, and I believe that failed over the cost of a case of beer a year, is how I heard it explained. But if that failed there, we're now talking about 6 cases of beer for no pool. You know, I don't see how this one's gonna go over in the community.
Yeah, thank you. And my comment is this is a feasibility study. Feasibility study is going to tell us what people want, which is captured well, what the support is there. But one part that's sort of critical to this and really hasn't been totally fleshed out in this, it's been estimated, is what is the construction cost and the annual operating costs. And the construction costs or the design costs, that's going to take that Class D at minimum and probably a Class B to understand fully what the cost is here. And that's good. We have those preliminary answers, so at least we're in the ballpark of understanding the finances of this. I see Councillor Sim pulling her mic up. I guess you'd like to go next, or?
No, I was going to look around the table first.
Good.
So, and I appreciated that the community engagement, and I appreciated the community concern for some of the other facilities out there. What I didn't really walk away with was a clear understanding of what that $9 million was going to do. Like I was hoping that we would see a bigger design here, because it seems like what's been presented is the best buffet anybody could have. But was there any considerations to some more modest uses of it, or maybe a more specific business case? So one of the things that I didn't really hear that came through is the opportunity for some sort of a conference space, which has got a larger dollar figure attached to it. And I looked to the nearest conference center, which would be Kamloops, and even that is often considered to be too small, and also the cost of bringing events in there, whereas smaller communities might be well positioned for that. Would that present a stronger business case, or was the feasibility just to get a temperature from the community and then maybe take it to next steps? So that's a lot there. I'm going to maybe summarize it as one. We seem to have the big buffet. Was there consideration for just a smaller form of a renovation that wouldn't have to take on that $9 million? Two, was there consideration for other business models that might allow for like a tourism development infrastructure grant, which I didn't hear you really touch on in detail?
Yeah, so one of the considerations looking at is expanding the North Thompson Sportsplex, particularly with the second floor, is a little bit of a difficult project in terms of the actual execution of it, right? Second floor has many more considerations than a new build on ground, right? Because there has to be sufficient first floor capacity to withhold the expansion and things like that, right? And so with Conference Center, if we were looking at just something similar to a banquet hall like there, and not so much any of the studio space, at least with the North Thompson Sportsplex, that likely would still have a fairly significant cost. However, for looking at if it were to be built somewhere out in a different location or separate from the Sportsplex was outside of the scope of what we are looking at for this study. JJ, do you have any other thoughts on that one?
No, I think you've definitely nailed the fact that yeah, we were basically presented with the design drawings and the dimensions to use as a baseline. So that's why a different size space wasn't really considered in this particular feasibility. And as for the tourism use, that is definitely a novel idea to look at. Conference center tourism uses for that space that could be contemplated further along, like more of a business plan in future, more detailed studies, if you wanted to go that route. I think the big thing here, takeaway would be pursuing a cost B or greater estimate, getting to the point where you've got a better understanding of the capital costs and the operating costs. There are good grants available to get you down that road if you want to go that way. I think you're at a fairly low risk to explore this further. And then, just like you say, see if those costs could be lowered even on the existing floor plan that's been proposed.
Do you have a follow-up, Councilor?
So supplemental on that is what would be really helpful, and I don't know if this is possible, is to get a larger scale drawing, because to see it in this small vision, $9 million, I'd like to see a blow-up model, quite frankly.
Sure.
Like just what would $9 million buy? Right now it looks like small squiggly lines. I can do that myself.
I believe that we did leave one there with Roger, so there actually is like a full, what is it, 2 by 4 foot, I think, blow up of those floor plans.
Well, it would certainly be helpful, and even to have that out for that. So thank you for drawing attention to that, and we'll look forward to having that brought forward. And then I also want to just touch on something you said, is if the building could handle that second floor expansion. That building was actually, the main floor expansion was built and designed to have a second story to it. So it was all very purposeful. And that was one of the reasons why this feasibility study was undertaken, is because there had been a plan to consider it in future years. So here we're considering it. So that has been factored in. Were you aware of that, or?
So maybe to clear up our position here, we're not engineers, and we have nothing to do with the engineering firm that you hired to provide those drawings. We're basically just being fed the information that they put forth for most of that, and then we used a quantity surveyor for that cost estimation, so they would take into consideration those engineering aspects.
All right, and that's important because it all comes under your report, so understanding who's been involved and who hasn't, so I appreciate that clarification on that. My last question is going to be how that space is utilized. You've given us sort of studio space. When your company first came to the council is there had been sort of some ideas of things. Did this plan come forward with any divider space? So it could be studios as well as it could be more open banquet space. Is that what's in here? Again, just seeing the small squiggly lines.
No, I don't believe that was ever in any of the contemplations. Like I say, it was basically a floor plan design given to us to explore the cost and feasibility of moving forward with.
I believe Mr. Mayor can add clarification to that.
Oh, perfect.
That was brought up with the engineering firm. However, if you say were to take that banquet room and put a dividing wall down the middle of that room, now there's no proper fire emergency exiting because it's exiting at either end of the room. As soon as you cut the room in half, and you don't have proper exiting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and to Councillor Sim's point, pre-COVID, tourism is estimated in this town at $36 million of income generation of this town, filling a lot of hotels, especially with hockey tournaments and sports tournaments. But where we lacked was the winter time, and one of the contemplations of council back then was being able to draw people in for dedicated workshops and events through the winter season, the off season, and to utilize that upper space for that even year round essentially. But that was part of it. And the other contemplation at the time was before all this started, there was no gym, workout area, weight room in Clearwater. So that was an initial spur to do that. And in the meantime, a private gym has opened, and we don't really want to compete with a private enterprise that has established itself. But yeah, a lot of the multi-purpose of this and some of the design work was around that. Are there further questions of this presentation? No? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation, and council will discuss what the next steps are at a future meeting. If we want to move on, and we do have to do a level of consultation with the TNRD as well, as because they are 40% funders on the Sportsplex for operational and capital expenses. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Excellent report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Councillor Sim.
So I'm just want to be clear is that we were able to receive a feasibility subject. It's like, here's your wish list. This is what it would cost. And now it's for contemplation. It gives an excellent feedback opportunity for citizens. But now we know what we're talking about, because before it just seemed like a really great idea.
Yeah.
And for $10,000, it would be.
Yeah. No, and this is to understand what we're talking about. You know, when we were throwing numbers in the air, we could have been talking about $1 or $2 million. We could have been talking about $20 million. Now we have an understanding from experts what range we're in.
May I ask one more question of staff? Is with the engineers, was it your impression that it was less expensive to do a new build on the ground as opposed to doing the expansion? Like, is the expansion more expensive than a new build on the ground?
I didn't have that discussion with them.
Thank you.
Good question for next phase. Okay, there is item 7.2, grant and aid report from the North Thompson Arts Council. And I believe our favorite poet is here to speak to that. So we'll let you introduce yourself and let us know what the North Thompson Arts Council has been doing.
My name is Alex McGilvery. I'm the treasurer and accidentally the chairperson of the North Thompson Arts Council. So we asked a while back for some money
I don't
for
think so.
to come to town and do a bunch of stuff.
Alex, could I just interrupt? I'm not sure your mic is on.
All right, no, I don't think it's on.
No, and I know that we've got people who are you watching online, so.
And just to let you know online, I don't know if it's been resolved, but there is an echo online.
All right,
for some
okay,
people.
that's
But
better.
anyways, go ahead. Thank you, Alex.
All right, again, my name is Alex McGilvery. I'm the treasurer and acting chairperson of the North Thompson Arts Council. We were fortunate enough to get a grant from the District of Clearwater for Ed Pikakoot's visit to help defray costs for workshops and such. So we were asked as part of that to bring back a report to council about what we did. Originally, the plan was for him to be here for an entire month, but because of health concerns and stuff, initially he wanted to put the whole thing off until September, and our vice president negotiated with him, begged him, and he came for about 10 days in late May to early June. So he arrived on the 29th and set up, and the art display stayed there until June the 7th. We had about 66 counted visitors. That's just me going back through the notes and adding up the people who showed up. It was open every day of the week, so I'm sure there was a few days that we didn't get numbers for. So it was at least 66 visitors we had at the end. He did a workshop. He arrived on the 28th, and then the 30th and the 31st, he did a workshop in Wavenby with the students up there for carving. I saw a picture of their work in process. I didn't get a chance to ask for a picture of the completed work, but from the work in processes, it looked amazing. And we had an adult workshop on carving on the 3rd and 4th that was well attended. I wasn't there, so I don't know what the exact numbers were. We had a workshop on the 5th for storytelling, and we had 7 people at the workshop, and we had a number of people who wandered in and out to look at the items in the gallery. Ed provided a mini concert for the people of Evergreen because he's got a connection to the place. I believe his mother was there. In addition to a concert at the Blackpool Community Hall. At the Blackpool Community Hall, that was a separate negotiation with a different group of people, but I wanted to note that we cooperated with that group to bring him into town. He was at the gallery most days when he wasn't providing workshops, and he talked to a lot of people about his art and his music. The grant was for $1,200. What we decided as the North Thompson Arts Council was to just simply write him the check for the $1,200 for his time in the workshops. All the workshops the carving workshop and the storytelling workshop was at no cost to the participants. The mini concert in Evergreen was at no cost to the residents who came. We didn't advertise that one specifically because he wanted that to be for the residents of the Evergreen. So we wanted the success of the visit was, I was there probably 4 out of the 10 days. And the response from the community to Ed being there was absolutely tremendous. Our opening, I don't know if we have the right numbers I think we had like 50 people just for our opening day. There was constant flow of people in and out wanting to see him, reminisce with him. He remembered an astonishing number of people. And it was a really good boost for the community, but also for the North Thompson Arts Council, because all those new people coming into the gallery, I have seen some of those new people who came to visit Ed have come back to see what other stuff we have at the gallery, and we have planned the shows through until November, I think, at this point. So we continue to encourage people to come out and see the show, and an event like this really boosts our visibility in the community. So I wanted to really thank the District of Clearwater for your support, for bringing this very special person to Clearwater and making arts accessible to the people of the district. Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Frizzle.
I don't have a question. I just want to comment. Thank you very much for bringing Ed here. He's just such an asset to our community. And though he no longer lives here, he is part of our community. Mm-hmm. And he's an amazing talent. And if you ever get a chance to see any of his work, listen to any of his music, listen to any of his stories, it's well worth it. So thank you for bringing him.
Councillor Sim.
I also think it was an excellent way to kick off a greater awareness about that new space. Mm-hmm. Because then the subsequent art display, it just became very natural. And so I think that what you're doing is really giving life and breath to arts and making sure that people feel that there is place and space for that within our community. And so your choice of kickoff was just superb, and I'm glad that it was able to seed. Thanks.
Thank you.
I heard lots of positive feedback, especially around the storytelling work and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it may not have reached your numbers are always important in these things, but
Yes.
it's good that it reached people that probably needed to be part of this. So, thank you so much for that. Go ahead, Councillor Sim.
Just
with the
on that
follow-up.
is, I think it actually reached more people because it was so new, and any new idea, it takes time. So I
For
think to
sure.
your
Yeah,
point, it rippled, and that was the first, pebble in the pond.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Councillor Bratton.
I just have one thing. Thank you very much for coming to do a presentation. It's great to see where the dollars go and how they affect the groups and how the town prospers. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you for coming out. Okay, Mr. Rodsetter, you're up.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here today. I guess a couple of things to get started. A couple of questions that I have for Mayor and Council is anything that's brought forward here, how long does it take for answers to come? And are those answers delivered in writing, or are they made public in the next meeting, or how are the...
It really depends on what it is, what is required of it. If it's financial, it can take a couple of meetings. Nothing's quick in government, but it really depends on what it is and how much research we have to do and background we have to do on it.
Okay. So I guess what brings me here today is a little bit of the history of why I got to this point to request some information from the District of Clearwater on some transparency issues. And I can see that some of these things have been obviously come to the table with the last few meetings that have happened. I'm going to just quickly go back to how this was brought to my attention. I'd come across a contract that was awarded. This contract was awarded for, and I'm not going to get into the total amounts and whatnot because there's not enough time, somewhere in the $350,000 range. This goes back about 5, maybe 6 years ago. This contract was to do work in our community. And then shortly after that document was seen and read, there was a front page article in the Clearwater Times that stated that there was a $999,000 award on this contract. Or not an award, sorry, a payment. Okay, a payment. Payment made for $999,000. This struck my curiosity about that. So I went to the administration to speak to the administration at the time. And the administrator at that time could not give us any information on the contract because she said it was confidential. So I guess my question on this is public money, why is it confidential?
Lots of contracts are confidential. My parks contracts were confidential.
I understand, but if the taxpayers are paying, how is it confidential?
Because I can let staff answer that if you want to take a crack at it, but most of the time, the business of other people and contracts and anything we do with them, contracts, employee relations, employees, hiring, personnel issues, and public safety are all confidential.
When the taxpayers are paying for it, the taxpayers have no right to know what the details of the contract are and what the amounts are.
The taxpayers get to find out when the budget is released and the audit reports are done, but not to specific levels.
So audit reports are auditing numbers, the dollar value, correct? Yeah. They don't audit work done for the contract that was worded. Is that correct?
Auditors do a bunch of functions. They'll look into the payment schedules, all sorts of things like that under a contract. The auditors take a peek into many aspects of what the district does in an annual year. As far as quality and inspections and things like that of the actual project, that is staff work.
Not the quality of the work. The work that's in the contract that says this is what needs to be done for the amount of money and to make sure that that's been done for that amount of money.
That is.
Not
that
the,
is
I'm
staff-
not talking about the dollars. I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
talk-
the compliance and quality control, that is staff work that is done, yes. That is management's work to audit that, verify that it's been done, yes.
Okay, so to get that information, of course, you have to apply under the Freedom of Information Act. Is there a reason why the district had to hire a lawyer to disclose that information about what a contract costs the taxpayers? Like, I'm not sure. And it took 3.5 years to get this information.
Yeah,
I'm not
and my
sure.
understanding is it shouldn't have taken 3.5 years, but hiring legal for things like this is basic standing practice for everything that we do with FOIs and things like this, unless it's a very simple request. This is my understanding, and I don't know the request. I haven't actually seen the request. That is not something council sees. My understanding, this was a fairly complicated request for an FOI.
Okay. So you haven't seen any of the requests? They don't come across?
They do
any
not come
administrative-
across my desk. They do not come across council's table. No specifics anyways. Sometimes we are made aware that there is a request. I know there was a FOI done last fall or last summer that somebody casually mentioned that I have no awareness at all about what the FOI was.
So ministry or the administrators would know that and that's it?
The administrators, the auditors, whoever had to be consulted on that, legal definitely would know that. But sometimes the sensitivities of things don't even allow council to see the need or the topic of an FOI.
Okay, thank you. You've answered my question.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, we do have on the next page minutes of the regular council meeting held June 18th, 2024. There is a recommendation that the minutes be adopted. What is the desire of council? Moved by Councillor Herring, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. All those in favor, and that passes. Moving on to item 10.1 DVP 24.01 permits. There's a recommendation of the development permit number DVP 2401 at 455 Wildwood Road be approved. Oh yes, sorry, and Councillor Bratton needs to step out on this because of friend relations on this. No, you can just go in my office or somewhere if you want. Thank you, and we'll call you back as soon as you are. Is there anybody speaking to this one?
The council saw this application at the last meeting, so there's been no changes since then. We recommend council approve the variance, and council can expect to see amendments to the subdivision and development servicing bylaw, so we don't have to drag residents through this process for the future. The standards that we require in the city or in the district way higher than what should be expected of a community of our size. This and what their variance is doing should be what we have in the bylaw to allow discretion, so we don't have to apply the bylaw strictly as we've done here. I apologize for the residents that they had to go through this process, but it's in front of you in order for them to permit their subdivision. I can't vary a bylaw. I don't have that ability. However, council will have the ability to delegate that responsibility to staff as we go through the development approvals process review, which is currently underway, and you will be getting a report in August in terms of where we're at, the deliverables, and what you can expect.
Thank you. Any questions on this? Councillor Sim?
No, I'll just move the recommendation.
Move the recommendation. Seconded by Councillor Herring. Any further discussion? I agree. I can't wait to see the development changes on this for the bylaw. The sooner, the quicker, the better. It'll solve a lot of problems for us. All those in favor? And that passes. And Councillor Simke, you just poke your head out the door and bring in, or Mr. Johnson. Thank you. Moving on, next item is Mayor's Report. Council has this on table. I'll just go through the highlights. June 20th was the Hospital Board and regular TNRD meeting. At that Hospital Board meeting, the TNRD, or Thompson Regional Hospital Board, which also includes Chase and part of Salmon Arm area and Lillooet, approved, I believe, over $45 million for the Cancer Care Center. Our contribution to that, I think it's about a $200 to $300 million project. So that at this point has gone to design stage and contractor stage. So knock on wood, barring something going wrong in an election or something along those lines, the Cancer Center should start construction in about 4 years. On Tuesday the 25th, I chaired the TNRD Accessibility Committee meeting in Kamloops. Great group of people that tell us about all the things, including our libraries and eco depots, that the things that need to be improved for people with sight impairment, walking impairments, and all sorts of access impairments. And that committee has been renewed for another year because the work has been so valuable at this point. It was thought that we should continue on. On Thursday the 27th, I did a really interesting session, training session on asset management, and I'd love to tell you what the quick answer on asset management is, but basically it's the difference between how you manage all the things that you have in your community, like water, sewer, roads, in a way that you're doing regular maintenance as opposed to replacement, because replacement in all times is more expensive generally than just looking after things on a regular basis. But it's basically how to look after things well so that we can keep them for a long time. Friday the 28th, a few of us attended the Simp Cultural Day in Chichewa. Learned a ton of stuff there, and my highlight for the day was getting Shelley Loring's former chief's bannock recipe, which I look forward to trying. And we got to sample a lot of bannock that day, among other great things. So that was fabulous. Canada Day barbecue, huge thanks to all the public works and staff from inside this building that helped the organization, especially Leanne and team. We got a good turnout considering the weather looked a little dodgy for the forecast. And a big thank you to Guy Holland and Harjeet Sandhu, who jumped in to volunteer at the table at the last minute. It was great to see that sort of spontaneous, almost spontaneous community participation in that. So great events, and it was nice to see so many of the community members. And I don't know the burger and hot dog tally, but I bet you it's over 600, somewhere in that range.
Close.
Yeah, there we go. I've done a few phone calls and media interviews on the emergency department closures. I got good news from Heidi Schilling about an hour or two ago that a nurse was found, so we won't be closing tonight, which was the fear, which is really good news. And we'll continue to work on that file. This Thursday, last week, the 4th, was agenda setting. We did that virtually because most of us weren't available in person. And in the last couple weeks, I've had discussions with various stakeholders about returning the Joint Services Committee, with Director Zhao being new to this and not really having that opportunity, like his predecessor Carol Schaefer did, to have sort of that inside view of how things work. He would like to do that, especially with things like the Sportsplex study. So I think it's probably be a valuable thing to bring back for a year or two, perhaps to the end of this term, and then talk about it with the next director when that person comes on board if it's necessary. And then also discussions with stakeholders about the return of the Trails Committee and a way to bring the Forestry Working Group back to life on an as-needed basis. And one obvious way I could see that is we're doing Clearwater Community Wildfire Roundtable sessions. I think about quarterly, and sometimes 3 times a year. And on almost all those sessions, everybody that would be at a Forestry Working Group meeting is already there. So being able to pair off about 45 minutes or an hour at one of those meetings for that function of having a roundtable to discuss forestry issues in North Thompson might be an easy way of accomplishing that. Moving on, Councillor Bratton.
Good afternoon. It's nice to see a full gallery. Glad to see you all here. I attended the Simp Cultural Days. There was about 75 in attendance there. That was very interesting. And one thing I took away from that was how to cook salmon on an open fire pit on stakes. Give Orland some interesting information. And Canada Day, yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Harjeet and Sandhu and Guy Holland, it was fantastic. You know, I tried to send Harjeet away because we were full, but she came back, and so I said, okay, let's do this, and you can give a hand. So, and Leanne, you did fantastic, and all the crew involved from staff and public works, thank you very much, because without all the help, then tents don't get put up and crews don't show up, so that's fantastic. You did great. And all the community groups that participated in Canada Day. It makes such a great community involvement day. It was so packed. It was so great. And even though it poured rain, everybody was having a ton of fun. That night this was a personal venture, but I just would like to say thanks for everybody that showed up. I did the nighttime float and people still showed up. I didn't think I was going to be here and threw it out there. And we had a little less than last year, but there was still a ton. And I'd have to say I was saying 95, but I think 90% of the people that showed up were under 25, which was fantastic. It was neat to see the young bunch come out and participate. So it was fantastic. So yeah, that's all I have. Oh, and with this heat, please check on your neighbors. Make sure everybody's getting the cool that they need. And I have heard that the library is open, I do believe, till 7 tonight, if you do need a spot to sit and be cool. And the seniors room here is available as well. So yeah, just be aware and hydrate.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I had to go visit my mom last night and mow her lawn in the 32 degrees just to make sure that everything was okay over there. So, yeah, no, for sure. It's good. That's good. Moving on to Councillor Herring. Councillor Frizzle. Hey, the last mayor used to scramble it up so you never knew what was coming.
Yeah, I know, that's true. Thank you. Just wanted to say thank you to staff for Canada Day as well. It was a really fun day, and despite standing in the rain waiting for their food, everybody was having a good time, so it was really great. And yesterday I had a meeting with our interim CAO and the director of, operations, and the Minister Fleming and his staff on BC Transit, and they're wanting to regionalize all the small communities. They've hit the pause button and have decided to put it off for at least a year and to do more consultation with the communities that it involves. They were unaware that we weren't consulted, and so they were using a lot of examples of bigger cities and how it works. We are very small communities, and we need to make things work for us, and I think we got that point across. So hopefully we'll have more consultation within the year, and it'll be good, I hope. And that's all I've done. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was a very important conversation that you had with Transit. Moving on to Councillor Herring.
So for myself, attended the Canada Day barbecue. That was great, and did the agenda setting for this meeting. One thing I'm really interested in is how we can use that river road to better use, and I want to do some advocacy to parks. Most of the councillors have decided, in fact all of us I think, have decided not to attend UBCM this year, so we're going to be putting a lot of weight on Merlin's shoulders to go and do some advocacy, but hopefully get a meeting with a minister to talk about that. So if members of the community have information that might be relevant to that, engineering reports, any information about the status of the road, I'd love to see it. If you can contact me, that's great. Also, if you're interested as a community organization in participating in some advocacy about that, also reach out to me. Really love to see, it's one of those things, it's not in the district. We're not looking to spend money on it as much as we are looking to advocate to provincial government to use what is a gorgeous area. I mean, I saw some posts even this week of people who've ridden their bikes up there despite it being closed. And it's an amazing area that just would be great to utilize. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Councillor Herring. Councillor McKenzie.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Blackwell. Pretty uneventful for me this last couple of weeks. I was at the Canada Day barbecue. Just want to thank Miss Culp and Miss Creed, as well as Public Works, for getting everything all set up and organized. Made it pretty easy to just walk in, move some tables and chairs, and things were ready to go. So thank you for that. Also to Guy Holland and Harjeet Sandhu for their assistance. We had some busy spells, so having those extra few hands in there to pass burgers around was really nice. Another thanks for Maverick and Valley Pride, Wellsgray Outfitters, there for setting up their paddleboard demos and activity tent. From what I seen when the smoke cleared off the barbecue, it was actually busy all down there at their tent for the whole day, so it's nice to see. Other than that, that was about it for me these last couple of weeks.
Thank you. And I believe the food bank earned what,
1745 or something, I believe it was.
$50 off of donations, pay or voluntary donations for burgers and stuff. So that was a fantastic and a good awareness event for them as well. So, Councillor Sim.
Certainly to echo the gratitude going on, but I think the other people to acknowledge would be Bilo Foods is just a massive generosity to making that happen. And thanks to their generosity, all of those proceeds could go to the food bank. So I think that was really important, as well as to echo the
Clarify
activities.
that Bilo donated all the food. Is that correct? Or the vast majority of the food?
Donated the hamburger buns, the hot dog buns, Smokies, pop, and chips.
Okay, so the vast majority of that.
Yeah, the vast
donated.
majority.
Thank you.
So it really was a successful day, and thank you for creating small moments of sunshine, which made it a lot easier. There was 2 wishes that were expressed for next year. Is one, bring back the cupcakes. We had a lot of requests for that. And then next year is that if, just because of the weather, is we had a little bit of an equipment malfunction, so we weren't able to sing "O Canada," but people were hoping that we could find a way to bring that back even without the equipment. So that's going to be marvelous there. On the topic of Dutch Lake, I'm wondering if staff could maybe bring back a report on how we can get no dogs and no geese. Dutch Lake is a real jewel, and we went for many, many years in this community where it was, Goose Park. And then putting out the new dock, we were able to mitigate it, but it has come back. And I know at Canada Day, there was a couple of councillors who did go around and clean up a lot of the area. And that is a daily task that's put on our parks person to actually do all of that raking. And it is preventing further enjoyment. So if there could be some sort of a report or information on how we can mitigate the geese there, whether that's a device that sends off a noise emission that sends them off, but it's a valuable place for community.
Thank you. CEO Johnson.
Easier said than done. We wrestled with this issue in West Kelowna and got to the point of addling eggs to reduce the population of Canada geese in the community, and it was not received very well by the community members. So we tried things like putting these shiny fox-looking devices. The geese didn't care; they were still all on the all on Lake Okanagan. So we can certainly do that, but I think on the geese side, it's going to be that'll be a tough one. Dogs, I think, are a little easier, but nonetheless, we can put that report together.
For me, I think it would be really important. I understand that in West Kelowna, you did have maybe some challenges. I would be interested in what our community thinks because it is such a protected area and so important. So I would be interested because that place is valuable. The second inquiry that I have is I'm excited to see the new paving that's taken place and the new lines there. And I'm just wondering when the lines will be painted. And just to confirm that I understand it correctly, that we are changing what happened last year as we experimented, is that it is going to go parking against the side of the road and then the bike walkway. Am I correct in explaining that? Where is parking? Is it in the side of the road or the middle?
I think it might be dead.
And when's the line painting taking place?
It's scheduled
to follow next week. Okay. So maybe just assessing that. Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson, for looking into that. The third point, again, just on the lakes, is do we have an administrative policy that whenever there's a major project in the community that will impact the public, is that we have a communications plan?
Short answer, no.
Okay.
Short answer also is this is one area that we really need to do a better job in. It's for that reason that we're out right now looking for a communications and administrative assistant Because through strategic planning, what council said to us, increase the level of consultation we got with the community. You've done that, you've invested in the position, we're out recruiting for that, and that recruitment for that position is the primary responsibility is on that communications end, because we want to raise the bar from where we are today. So coming up with policies like that are important. Things like putting up, just as the provincial government does when there's a major project, to say what the timelines are, how much it was, who funded it, are certainly things that we can do a better job of moving forward with larger scale projects. So certainly something that council has identified, something that we're addressing, and I hope that council is going to see the bar being raised, but more importantly, that the community feels that that's happening as well.
Great, I appreciate that information. My last inquiry for the council is we do have some government requirements for the accessibility plan to be submitted to the province, and I'm wondering if we could have an update on that for the August meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. I think we need a couple recommendations brought forward for the agenda from the committee of the whole. Where on the agenda would be a good place to fit those, because we didn't do that. Would that come 16.3 or?
Yes, Your Worship, 16.3 would be.
Okay, so when we get to that point, I'm going to need you to read them out because I put my piece of paper away on that one. Moving on, CEO report, anything from Mr. Johnson at this point?
I'll have a report on the next agenda, as well as the strategic plan and the operational plan for council in August. Okay. That's going to be council's opportunity to go over everything that's happening in the municipality. We're going to include the financial component. We received that report a number of agendas ago, but it's all going to be included in one package in August. So it's going to be a busy meeting.
I didn't know if you just maybe wanted to briefly touch on the fact that the closing date has come and gone for new CAO and that you've undertaken that important work.
Yes, that's one of a number of positions that we've had out there. We're currently going through the interview process. Council is made it a priority to make sure that we get the right person for this position moving forward. That's going to be key through this recruitment. We're expediting this in order to get the person in because it's important that council knows that you're getting the things done that you want to get done. And I think that might have been something in the past that you haven't been able to keep track of. That's what that strategic priorities and the operational plan will be all about, so that you know how things are moving ahead and things that, you know, we're a human organization. We make mistakes and sometimes we overachieve and sometimes we underachieve. And this is our opportunity to give that to council. And that's your report card on the health of the organization, right? How well did we do? And further, that becomes your performance piece for the new CAO, right? Did you do the things you said you were going to do? So I'm looking forward to bringing that to council for your feedback at the August meeting.
Thank you.
I expect that the recruitment will be wrapped up very, very shortly.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Moving on to item 16.1, new business. Brookfield Bridge railing. There's a staff report. Any comments from staff or questions from council on this? And then there is a recommendation. Councillor Herring.
So I think we all know I'm not a big fan of this project, and it's something I've argued against over and over again because it seems useless to me. It just seems so strange to put a railing where there's no pedestrian space anyways. So it seems like a waste. And then in addition, below that, the forestry road that goes under that bridge, there's no railing preventing from going over the creek in there. And where's the provincial government's responsibility? So it's funny how it lands on municipal government to spend a bunch of money on this, but nobody is talking to the ministry about fixing the safety of their road. So as much as I know that our insurance company is like, you have to do this, this is a waste of money, a lot of money.
Okay, thank you. We do have a contract to award, though, if that is the desire of council. Further comment, Councillor Sim?
Thank you very much, Councillor Herring. Thank you for voicing out loud what many of us feel, but I think that we have to do it, otherwise that people get really mad at us should anything happen, because once you know it, you can't unknow it, and it is really one of the challenges of being part of government.
Hear, hear. The things that I have to never unknow are just astounding some days. So there is a recommendation. What is the desire of council on this? So the recommendation is the council award the contract to Anvil Ironworks, who I'm sure has done a wonderful design and are great people. Which is option 2, the amount of $89,186.27 for the fabrication and instruction, engineering inspections to Watson Engineering for the amount of $29,320, and a contingency of $20,000 for a total product cost of $138,506.27 plus GST to complete the Brookfield Bridge railing. Do I have a mover and a seconder on this? You have a question, go ahead.
What's the difference between the two? I notice it's $12,000, but I just want to, what's the difference between the two options?
Okay.
Right, I knew that.
Okay. Okay. If we don't have a mover and a seconder, this dies on the table. Councilor Bratton moves it. Do we have a seconder on this?
Seconded.
Okay, seconded by Councilor Sim. All those in favor? Opposed? And I'm quite sure
We don't wanna
Councilor
do it.
Herring would like that noted. And yeah, I'm not in love with the fact that we have to do this, but we have a responsibility and a liability to take care of things like this. I would like to see a proper pedestrian bridge there someday, but on the list of priorities of infrastructure we need to fix in this town, that bridge is actually quite functional and has been inspected and rebuilt and things like that. So, you know, this isn't top priority for me, but the railing has to be done. Thank you. So all those in favor? I think I already told that. Okay, excellent. So 16.2, Zamboni replacement. There are 2 staff reports and then a recommendation. Anybody from staff wish to speak to this?
This report that's come forward is providing 2 options. The option to go with a mechanical Zamboni, which came from our staff, and then I've made the recommendation that we move forward with the electrical piece, given that council strategic priorities speaks to sustainable purchasing, sustainable community, and the material cost between the two to me wasn't enough in order to say that we should be going with the mechanical but the electrical. Part of the reason that you see 2 reports is one of our staff members was away and I didn't want to change their staff report without consulting with them. That's why you see 2 reports.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions of staff on this? Councillor Sim has her finger on the mic. Anybody else? Councillor McKenzie can go first.
Thank you. I would just like to actually hear from the staff that operate this equipment and spend the time in this building and hear their thoughts on that for everyone, please.
I recommended the propane mostly based on my concerns about the life of the batteries. And although the manufacturer does expect them to last 10 to 12 years, they only warranty them for 5. And I'm just concerned in the long run, we could replace that battery at $50,000+ 4 times.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Sim?
However, if we did purchase the electric, I'd be quite happy with it.
Thank you.
I think the kids will be happy just to have something other than us shoveling it, so.
Yes.
I was interested in the costs up front, and I didn't quite understand the breakdown in the report. So the insurance is covering how much, and then how did it break down exactly? So it looked like for the electric there was more of the upfront purchase. Did I understand that correctly?
That's
Whereas
correct.
the propane is putting us on a payment plan. Is that what they're offering, or and how does that impact with insurance if it's all covered under insurance? I did not understand that storyline.
The insurance company will pay for replacement of another propane unit, less our deductible. Whether we buy propane or electric, we're still paying the $5,000 deductible. They will fully replace the propane or they will give us that value towards the electric.
Okay, so now, Over to you, Ms. Klassen.
That's correct, Mr. Meyer. The insurance will replace the like with like. However, our maintenance costs for the electric is a little bit less, and so is the operating cost, is a little bit less on an ongoing basis. And they'll also pay for rental until we get the machine, because it's going to take a significant amount of time, over 6 months plus, perhaps, to get that machine.
Okay. Councillor Bratton.
We have enough power to be able to source for the machine to be charged?
Yes.
Okay. And how do we know this? Like because we've never charged. The only reason I'm asking is we've never done it.
There will be some work required from an electrician to put in the proper plug, but it's a wall mount unit that's just wired into the panel.
And the other concern that came up in my basic research on this is that the battery-powered machine would have to be in a heated room at all times, other than when it's being used.
Yeah,
Did that come across?
our garage is heated.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Sim.
Do we have other examples of communities who are using electric?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Are there other communities that are using electric?
Yes.
And what have they reported back?
Too new to really know. Ashcroft has had one for 1 year, Lilibet's had one for 2 years. They both are happy with them.
Merritt has two. Coquitlam, I think, is changing out their entire fleet to electric over time, but they're halfway through that, is my understanding.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Councillor McKenzie.
So I was just curious where we have to sort out, when it comes down to maintenance, where do we source out a repairman to come up? It's not like driving over to T&T like we always have. Just curious where they come from.
Currently, there's no, I don't believe there's anyone in town that can work on the electric unit. So we'd have to bring the mechanic in from the coast.
Sorry, Mr. Johnson.
Electrical mechanics are like unicorns these days, hard to find. But as the technology becomes more and more brought in, there are more and more opportunities to have people that have that sort of expertise. The company that is providing us the machine will give us the recommendations of who to use to repair it. Well, they wouldn't be giving us a machine that we couldn't repair, if possible. The thing with an electric also is it has less moving parts. So the wear and tear on it is not as great as what it will be under a mechanical machine.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Bratton.
I have a question about the battery in the cold. So it needs to stay in the heated room and you're on the ice. Has any of the other places run into problems of the battery getting too cold in use?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
The issue with the lithium batteries is the charging. The charging has to be done in a warm room. The operating does not.
Oh, interesting.
So if they're uncharged, you have to charge them in a warm space.
Because I have a camera that likes to die in the cold.
Councillor Sim.
Actually, you raise a good question, is what is the battery life? Because on a weekend, you would see quite a bit of use. So what's the battery life?
The battery will easily last through a weekend. It can be plugged in between floods for a little bump up charge. The nice thing about lithium batteries, a lead acid battery dies like this. A lithium battery always stays fairly level in its charge power.
Thank you.
Think of your power drill. It works until it's dead.
Oh yes, my power drill.
Yes. Okay. Hey, equal opportunity. We'll go with that. Okay. Any further questions of staff? Councillor Frizzle.
Is there any possibility to have anyone trained on staff that could do the repairs on the Zamboni? The electric one, if it was. I don't know how they're made. I don't know if it's way out of the...
I don't know. With the propane powered unit, it was easy to find a local mechanic to work on it. The rest of the machine, the machines are identical except for the motor. And the staff already does all the other maintenance on the machine.
Okay, so it would be just the electrical part or the...
Yeah.
Okay.
If we ran into a battery problem or electric motor problem, that might be another thing.
Yeah. That said, there are some highly technically skilled electricians in this town. that do electronic controls and things like that around the world that work out of our section of the valley. So some of that expertise may be here. We just haven't reached out and seen if they have to do that, because I've actually had the offer for car charges, etc. here. Councillor Herring.
I think I missed it. What is the length of term on the warranty for the propane unit?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
How long is the warranty on the propane Zamboni?
Warranty is the same on both units. It's just longer on the battery itself.
Okay.
That is, warranty on the machine is 2 years. And warranty on the battery is 5 years.
Okay. So there is a recommendation before you. If council wants to go with a recommendation or make another one, that's up to council. What's the desire of council this time? Councillor Herring.
I'd like to move the recommendation that we go with electric Zamboni.
Okay. So do we have a seconder on that? I mean, I'll second it from the chair if need be. Okay. Council Frizzle seconds it. Further discussion? Councillor Sim.
I think it's really exciting that we're contemplating electric. I will say that I've got some hesitation because I've been on weekends where things don't work and it just, everything falls apart. So I'm super scared about this one. So I'm going to do the count around the table and see where the hands fly on this one.
Yeah, you know, and the one thought that I didn't bring up in the main discussion is we're talking about emissions inside a building. There's a work safe contemplation to the propane for staff and public safety that needs to be considered. And from what I'm seeing around in other places, that has to be consideration in your thought process on this, because the lithium battery machine does not put out any emissions. So knowing, like everything else safety, things ramp up over time and restrictions become higher on emissions. That could be a factor in the, may not be a factor in the lifetime, how long the Zamboni lasts, but it may become a factor at some point at how long we're allowed to use it. And the last Zamboni we had, we used for how many decades?
The two machines we have were both purchase used, and they were 30 and 27 years old.
Yeah, so that's another consideration, and that's a great thing that they've lasted this long, but 20 to 30 years from now, I have a strong feeling we may not be allowed to use propane powered Zambonis inside. Any further discussion? Councillor Brad.
So I remember a report coming a while back that our fire department is getting trained in battery dosing, putting it out.
Yes, because
that's not the word. But is this something that we need to be concerned about? If it's being stored in the arena, is there a fear of it exploding?
Well, the propane one has already, so.
Well, there's that.
But yes,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that has to be taken into consideration. What
storage and all of that.
What the risks are and that sort of thing. I'm not aware of any of the propane or the electric ones going up, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. So, okay. Further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Okay, it still passes 4-6. Do you wish your objections noted?
Noted, please.
Noted. Okay. So Councillor McKenzie opposed. Councillor Sim opposed. Okay. We move on to item 16.3, which are items coming out of the committee of the whole meeting. Two things happened in the committee of the whole meeting. Council moved forward the recommendation that the committee of the whole recommends the council to adopt the public art policy as presented. So is council adopting the public art policy in this open meeting now? Is that how this works, or are we just bringing this
Yes,
forward?
Your Worship, that would be the...
Okay. So there is a... Yeah, go ahead.
So how does this differ from a notice of motion?
A notice of
like
motion...
I just need to know, I need to understand how how that flows for procedures, the fact that it's come from one to another, whereas we're moving also to try and strengthen notice of motion. So would it go on the next council meeting, or it can just be moved to this one?
Yes, Councillor Sim, through your worship. This is a recommendation from the previous committee of the whole, whereas a notice of motion is brought by a councillor into this meeting and then is brought up for consideration at the following meeting, unless it's on the agenda ahead of time.
Does that satisfy? Well, I mean, I think we're going to need a governance refresh at some point, and probably in the fall. Yeah, some of this stuff we just don't come up on a regular basis here, and notice of motion is one of those things for sure. Okay, Mr. Johnson.
If I can just say that under the procedure bylaw, I think that there are a number of amendments that we need to consider moving forward. It's a bit cumbersome at the moment. I think that we can streamline some of the things that we've got contained within that. It's not a top priority, but keeping governance clean and making sure that it meets the needs of council is something that we should be reviewing on a yearly basis. Procedure bylaws shouldn't just be in place for years because that's the way we've done business. It needs to reflect the way council would like to do their business, and it's a good opportunity to check in on that and governance at the same time.
Thank you. So there is a recommendation that council adopt the public art policy as presented.
So I think the work that was done was terrific. Like when I read the report, it was really, really, really well done. Here's why I'm not gonna, I personally would like to move it to the next agenda, and it's just because this is an important guiding principle that's new, and if there was any feedback from community, I'd like to hear it in advance of it, just so we don't hopscotch it to this one. But I do want to commend the work of, Ms. Culp. It was thoughtful, and it really showed lots of in-depth research, and I think it does hit all the marks. But for me, I want to make sure that there's no other feedback.
Excellent point. Any further comments or questions on that? Councillor Herring?
Yeah, I'd support that too, Shelley. I think I really like the plan. I think it looks great, but a little bit of extra time for public digestion sounds great. People can go through and have their thoughts.
Definitely.
So looking at the table, we'll table that till the next meeting. If everybody nods in agreement, which is not a vote, it's just a nod. So moving on to item 19.2.
Excuse me, do we need to motion that to table it, or are we
No,
fine just to verbally
we
table
just-
it?
we
Just
just
checking in with the governance?
Yes, Your Worship. That's, we don't need a motion to table it.
Thank you.
Introduction, item 16.4, this would be. There's a recommendation that...
Your Worship.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, there is item 9.2 for the Questica open book.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on too, which would fall under 16.4 if I was to move it into the agenda. Well, finally, I got one up on them. That never happens. So the recommendation is that council recommends to support the launch of open book budget visualization tool as recommended in this report. So earlier today we were given a look at a new tool that will allow the public and ourselves to go online and look at our budget on a daily, weekly, hourly. Maybe I'll just get Ms. Klassen to basically explain this so I don't mess it up.
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. Earlier today, we had a demonstration of our open book budget visualization tool. I know it's a lot of words, but what it does is just, it works with the data that we have in the system for our financial plan, and it's interactive, so you can see it in graphs, bar charts, in percentages, in also in just data, just tables. So please have a look. And we're looking to launch that in July and a hard launch in August.
This is the future of finance. This is one of the things that allows accountability and access for the public and our council and basically everybody involved in this in a way that hasn't been that easy, I think, ever. So yes. I look forward to this. Councillor Bratton.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that this will be available to the public to be able to look at. So it's very transparent and clear and interactive, and it was super cool, the presentation. Thank you.
And I believe that meeting was recorded, so that is available for people to view online even if they didn't attend, so including that presentation. Mr. Johnson.
From a transparency perspective and in terms of budgets that we heard earlier, this takes us to a new level. right? So that the public can drill down to an appropriate level to see where tax dollars are going. And it'll be very clear through the Questica project that we're very important in terms of transparent and people know where their tax dollars are going. And this will get us that much closer to being able to meet council's objectives.
And to clarify, this has been an ongoing project of finance staff for well over a year now. It's been in the planning since you got here.
93 and 94, or 2023 and 2024. 2023 and 2024,
yeah,
sorry.
A decade and a half before we incorporated. That's amazing. But yes, for several years now. Councillor Sim further.
And just because we have been discussing it so frequently over several meetings, and because this has been a vision that's been held and presented several times, I would like to move the recommendation.
We have a seconder by Councillor Frizzle. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor. Thank you, and that is passed. So that is it under new business. Nothing under bylaws, correspondence, response required. Information only correspondence, letter from the City of Campbell River, Provincial Management of Forest Practices. Any comments? Councillor Herring.
I'd like us to maybe move to support that letter. I think our forest industry here would agree with the sentiments expressed there, and there's nothing specific that Campbell River is suggesting other than that the provincial government meet with industry stakeholders. So to me, I think that sounds
So
great.
draft a letter of support and send it to City of Campbell River and to Minister Ralston, who is still holding that position.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully we can get staff to do that. And you make a motion for that, actually.
All right, I motion that.
Okay, and do we have a seconder on that motion? Councillor Bratton, all those in favor? Thank you. So Herring and Bratton, and we will look forward to that. Herring and Bratton. So that moves us to public comment and question period. Questions from the public. Come forward, please, and state your name, please. You have to come to the mic because there's people online. Hazel. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Hazel Wadliger, and I'm president of the Curling Club. And I'm here this afternoon because I was quite interested in the presentation about the expansion on the Sportsplex. I'm one of the one. I did fill out the survey, and I was probably one of the one that's at the arena 4 times or more during the week, and I really appreciate the Sportsplex and the staff and all it does for our community. However, I'm a little bit concerned about, I'm like Shelley. I'm looking at these diagrams, and I really don't know how it's going to affect the portion of the Sportsplex. The Curling Club is one of the tenants, and I think the upstairs where it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to take out the bar, how it's going to change our facility, what we have now, what we lease. And so I would really like to be able to have a meeting with staff, with our executive, to go see exactly what it may look like. I know it's preliminary, but we haven't really had any input as a club, and I'm also concerned about, I'm not sure how the banquet room would go, if there's going to be a kitchen upstairs, if the city's going to, if the club won't have the liquor license, it's pretty important. We wouldn't be viable without that. Yeah. So that's just one thing I would really like to do. So if we can set up a time to go there and look at all that.
I think this is the next little consultation, because at some point if we're going to move forward, we actually have to get closer to an engineering drawing. So a lot of this will be done, and as stated earlier, we're going to need to consult with the TNRD as well as a partial funder on this, but the clubs would come up as well. My understanding is the vast majority of the new construction would happen over the change rooms and the lobby. But yes, I mean, you'd have a better elevator access to the second floor in the design, but we're at the early stages.
I think it's important to get our
oh no, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
This is what it's going to be, because
And to be fair, this project, I mean, even if we were to talk about design drawings in the next 6 months, this is 4 to 5 years out before this project would go.
Well, I probably won't be there anymore, but I can.
Many of us may not.
But anyway, I just appreciate being able to
Yeah.
go there physically and look at it. I have a hard time with drawings and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And we floated the boat, and now you get to see that there's something floating there, and now we get to decide what it looks like and what sail it flies and all that sort of thing. Councillor Sim.
Thank you for your comments. And also, just because you're here and on behalf of Rotary, another hat you wear, I want to thank you so much for the contribution to the pollinator garden as you come in. It looks beautiful. So,
well, you know, we sort of just added to it, and it is looking nice. I checked it out. I've got to go pick out a few weeds, but thank you for letting us plant there. I think that was a great thing, and it does look nice. So
thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for items on the agenda? Okay, state your name.
Chris Enns.
Thank you.
I'd just like to talk about the Sportsplex for a second. I appreciated the council being wary about the cost and obviously the payback period. I think with regard to the presentation, there was a couple of things that just stood out to me as being a bit wishy-washy. I'm not sure why we're assuming a 5% interest rate over the long term. I think that one's a big one. And also just in terms of the data collection, I mean, you guys have seen lots of surveys in your time. There's no way for this, I should say, I operate a marketing consultancy. I've worked in marketing and business development for the past decade. And the unique users were unverifiable on that form. I filled out the survey myself. There was no way to get a unique identifier. I spoke to Survey Lab, who they actually used to facilitate the survey. And the only way for them to do any geo-targeting to verify that people were in our area is if the form had actually included a incorporate my GPS widget and actually have buy-in from the user. And then the user's device still would have had to have actually given that data across. So it's hard to say if the 519 or whatever it was unique users, and then if those 1,400 and some were actually unique views, unique opens. So it's just data quality is always important on these kinds of things. And one last question for you is in terms of the Sportsplex ownership and the funding, you said 40% that was TNRD funded for operating costs, but what's the ownership model in terms of if we put $9 million into this, are we going to own the whole thing?
And that's a great question because the property and technically the building in the end is actually owned by the school board, right? So it is not an owned asset like this building we lease of the District of Clearwater, and that is something that definitely has to be considered when we move forward. This building, a lot of money has been put into it from grant funding from other sources. YCS acquired a lot, but yeah, when we talk about, I think we're 9 years or something into the lease on this building, something like that. Theoretically, we've only got about 16 or 17 years left on this building, at which point, if the school board decides, they could take it back and we would have to build a new city hall. So the same thing goes for that building, is sometimes we need to think about what is the long-term effect of something and how much money we're putting into an asset that we may not own. Or do we talk to the school board and say, hey, can we buy the land underneath the Sportsplex and take that on? And that has been a conversation of council in the past. And like I said, this is a floating a study out there to see what's possible. And now, if the will is there, we move forward with a next level to get more accurate costs and more accurate uses as well. But yeah, I think that has to be part of the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Hey, further questions on the agenda? Okay.
Hi, Rachel Asker. I have two things that I wanted to mention. I just noticed that there weren't any minutes that were adopted for this meeting, nor were there minutes that were adopted for the previous spontaneous meeting earlier in the month. And there was due to be an amendment because there was an error in the CAO report.
Yeah, and I'd have to go to staff on that one. Generally, minutes are not adopted until I have an opportunity to sign them or the chair of that meeting has to be shot, and I don't think that's the case in this one. Yeah, okay, so the 18th is there. The spontaneous meeting, I haven't had a chance to sign those. I haven't seen those minutes. That's the special meeting. No, yeah, okay. So anyways,
Okay, so when would that amendment happen and then be adopted?
I would have to, was it adopted was it changed in the minutes? It was changed in the minutes?
Yes, Your Worship, it was changed in the minutes. And that
It was
looked
changed
at.
in the minutes that were adopted today. So
Correct.
if that version is available online,
It will be after the minutes have been signed by you, yes.
right, because I got to sign them today. And then they're in draft form until I sign them today. So
Okay,
after
great.
today, they will go online. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Because I
and
did
it-
want to acknowledge that correction needed to be made.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted to echo, most people are aware Chris is my partner, and we did discuss those figures in the report from, in regards to the Sportsplex, and we just found it disappointing that they weren't able to quantify those numbers. Those numbers for our community are really important, and I would have appreciated a little bit more from that consultancy company.
Yeah, and I think when we get to the point where this gets closer to something that's real, we would have to do another study that does that. And you know, this is his business, your business. You understand what this costs. So what we had right now was, I believe, mostly a completely grant-funded study. That's correct. And if we go into this further, you're talking probably a $200,000 study that we would have to do. So this was funded from elsewhere, not from tax dollars. So this is our preliminary thing, but yes, for sure. Councillor Herring.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that with the amount of money that a project like this would cost, like, it's almost guaranteed we'd have to go to referendum because we'd need to borrow money for it. So likely there's going to be tons of opportunity for public input before anything happens on this. It's going to be a very collaborative process.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. I was just echoing the sentiments.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments from the public? If none, we do have to move into in camera under section. There's a recommendation that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 91 of the community charter to discuss matters relating to A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality. Can I get a mover and a seconder on that? Moved by Councillor Bratton, seconded by Councillor Herring. All those in favor? And we will take a 10-minute recess. Be back at 4 o'clock. Thank you.
Well, that was calmer than the last meeting.